Well, welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. And as per normal, Kieran says keep it short, and I'll say, yeah, we haven't got a lot. And after an hour, we're talking about, come on, we've got to come to a stop now. I would tell you what some of the things we're going to talk about a bit later on are, but then you'll turn off straight away. So, can I say, they are interesting. You'll really enjoy it, but dare I give you the title because it sounds awful. All right? But please hang on. It's fascinating stuff. And what?
Don't you normally put the titles of the segments below anyway?
Yeah, I'm sure people don't bother looking. But you can, and I will do this time so you can sort of go on to bits that you're interested in. But we'll wait and see that. Kieran, we had lots of results, as we've said before, on the Sheffield Wednesday one from all their fans. And I loved the one about me being, Ainsworth's dad. I'd be a lot better off money-wise, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And this week, did you see the reply from somebody this week?
No,
who said they finally got through the whole of the show because they were ill. I don't know whether that means you have to be ill to actually watch this. I think you have to be. I don't know whether that means mentally ill or physically ill. I'm not
you have
sure.
You have to be challenged, don't you?
He said he was in bed, so he finally got through the whole programme, thought it was very good, and loved the bit about he's got the Guardiolas. Do you remember that? I said his name sounds like a disease. Yeah. And he said he'd got the Guardiolas and was in bed, so he finally got through the whole programme.
You're happy that someone has actually found your joke somewhat funny.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I also like the idea that actually, although very, very much lower numbers of people watched it, we got to 10, we got to double figures where people make it through the first 10 minutes, which is excellent. But please, guys, watch the whole thing. The last bit is going to be where me and Kieran predict winners and losers, etc., in the Premier League. And so we're starting our league, our own personal league. So you join in, please join in and see whether you can beat Kieran. I'm sure you'll beat me. Okay. First thing we have to mention is, yes, we got Oxford again. Isn't it good playing Oxford at the moment? We seem to win them.
We're on a little streak against them at the moment, aren't we?
We are.
We've won quite a few.
One of the, first of all, Mr. Manager of Oxford was very, we played well. Which was the first comment that all the Oxford fans online seemed to complain about, was the last thing they suggested Oxford did was play well. And I didn't go. I was at work, midweek game. I did chat to somebody who did go. I wish you wouldn't do that. Surely that's not because my drink is next to the microphone.
I probably find it is.
Surely it can't be. What was I saying? He was freezing cold. The guy said you were lucky not to go because the game wasn't the most exciting, and it was absolutely freezing. So I don't know. Would it be worth? I think it'd still be worth being freezing cold and watching Wycombe beat Oxford. Plus the fact you just warm up, don't you? You wear the sensible clothes. I've got all those things you wear under your trousers that my dad used to wear.
I'd imagine it was still a little bit chilly, though. In all fairness, the fact they had to close one of the stands because of how cold it was.
Yeah, you wear layers. That's what you need. You see, I've bought all my Wycombe cold gear. Well, look at this. I mean, this is very much Guardiola, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I can stand and rant.
Not quite the hair to match, though.
No, that is more Ainsworth, I think. That is more Ainsworth. I'm having an operation shortly. I think it's a week Tuesday. How much do you reckon? About 2 inches? I'm having a haircut to get it ready for my son's wedding. Not this one, another one. Ready for June. So I thought if I get it cut now, then it should be about the right length for June. Anyway, moving on.
Well, if you do it now and you cut off 3 inches, surely it's going to come back even more than that by June. Would it not?
No, my head doesn't grow at all fast anymore.
Okay.
When you get older, Kieran, you'll find that things just don't happen.
I understand, yeah.
I mean, all the hair that's supposed to be there doesn't grow, and all the hair that's not supposed to be there, like the ones coming out the side of my ears, they're bombing along. It's strange. Lovely. Out my nose and things like that, they're bombing along.
But I feel sorry for Jackie.
Off of these bits, they don't grow at all anymore.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a joke, really. Okay. Yeah, so
that was Wycombe.
Oh yeah, we were on Wycombe, weren't we? And also Bristol Rovers, and they lost again Oxford at the weekend. And again, their fans, I think they've had enough. Actually, it's funny that I think their manager, that they've had enough of him, which is quite interesting. Normally, you'll get all the rants about, it was Wycombe's fault for cheating this and cheating that, like the Sheffield Wednesday, even though they won. But this time, all their fans were just moaning about Oxford. I always like looking at their comments, because you start getting a real feel for things. And when your fans start having a go at you and your manager, I think there's trouble. And I think they're tired of him. And comments about, we haven't got a clue, and he hasn't got a clue. He sets up this way against Wycombe and then goes straight into this game exactly the same, knowing the weak points, and he's done exactly the same, and all this stuff. And I don't think fans necessarily know what you should do, but it just shows, I think, they've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, you do say that, but it's not like Wycombe fans haven't turned on Ainsworth a couple of times, where it's been a bit, at least, I don't know, 30-40% of the fans think we could do with someone else. I don't know if it's proportional to what the Oxford fans think, but it's not everyone's going to be happy all at once. But it's also not to say that this guy for Oxford's actually any good.
No.
And I don't think he is.
I think he's maybe, time for a change.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be getting anywhere, do they? For some teams, you don't.
I feel like Oxford should be a team that, like, it's a big enough city, it's a big enough kind of club that should be pushing towards kind of a championship place, shouldn't they?
Well, I think they should be in the playoffs every year, really.
They should be fighting for it, shouldn't they?
Yeah,
definitely.
And again, having Joey Barton, and I've got this real dislike for the bloke recently since we played them. I'll keep an eye on them, and they got absolutely shot to death. I don't know whether you see that. 5-1 against Morecambe in the bottom there. His comments were quite interesting, as were their fans. Their fans were all, it's not his fault, which I thought interesting. They still love him to death. He's just had a complete shave off the head. He now looks a right thug, so it probably suits him.
Yeah, but do you know the reason?
No.
It's because one of the people on the team has got cancer, and so everyone on the team has shaved their heads.
Right.
Hence why he may well still look like a thug, but that is the reason.
Okay. Okay. Well, good then. Really?
Fair enough.
Well, fair enough to him. Would I do it? Don't know. Yeah, of course I would. No,
you wouldn't.
I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody to do it for me.
Yeah.
If
weird conversation, but if I was to have all my hair off, I wouldn't necessarily expect you to cut all yours off.
41 years it's been long. It's a bit.
Yeah. It's
I'd
you,
do other
isn't it?
things. I'd have my leg
Yeah.
off or something, but not cut my hair off.
Could you run a marathon for me or
Yeah,
something?
I mean, my left arm, I don't use that very often,
No.
you know. Um, yeah, his comments. So all his fans were all, it's not his fault, it's the players, and of course he done his normal of it wasn't my fault, it was the players, and his comment was quite interesting. First of all, he's talking about we need another 6 decent players.
Good.
Easy comment to make, I think.
Yeah.
If you lose a game, well, our players just aren't good enough. Not sure that's going to help.
Difficult to say that at this level, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what he thinks is going to happen there.
No.
But saying that anyway, it's hardly going to push your team on, is it? When they all thinking, no, he doesn't think I'm good enough. Anyway.
No.
And the next comment he made was he doesn't feel they deserve to be paid and that they should give their money to the fans that travelled.
Easy
Because
thing to say.
He's saying that if you were to ask a guy round to sort of put a door on your house, if they did such a bad job, you wouldn't pay them.
But what if you lose 2-1? Do you pay them back as well?
This is it. I mean, every time your team lose, do you deserve your ticket money back?
Yeah. You're allowed to get battered, sort of. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's a. You can only ever
them in the end. Surely,
yeah.
If they're not good enough, then who employed them? Maybe they shouldn't have their money.
Surely it's a completely different kind of. I mean, of course it is, but it's a completely different kind of environment compared to someone doing your boiler for you.
A bit of a funny argument, because I'm not sure he's improved things saying things like that. No.
Like especially like he's got to look at like the teams that we've gone up with and got to the championship with and think my players were better than theirs. And so saying that your team isn't good enough in League 1 and 2 and all that sort of thing, it doesn't really work out.
No. And of course, Wycombe are playing Port Vale come the weekend. I am going. I do know where it is now. It's about 3 hours away, I think, on the coach. I know we're leaving at 9 to get there. Well, I think we're leaving at 9. He did suggest it might be. I'm going to check it out. So we should be there by the time the pub's looking at opening. Excellent. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, Port Vale middle table should stand a chance. But that's enough of Division 1. We didn't play at the weekend. We did beat Oxford, really pleased. 1 or 2 interesting little results in Division 1, but nothing that really changed anything. So we look forward to the weekend. Milton Keynes lost. I remember that. MK Dons lost. So that bottom group is a bit of a sod, really, because I think there's 5 teams and 4 places going down. I think is right. There's one team on 25, is it, or 21, and then there's 4 teams all with the same amount of points, and so it's all based on goal difference. If I think that rings a bell. Kieran will look it up.
I will.
By the time I've looked it up, time would have passed and we'd be on.
Yeah, so the bottom we've got Forest Green on 21, who have played more games than everyone else in the league, so they're stuffed. And then you've got MK Dons, Accrington, Bird, and Cambridge all on 25.
Yeah, and one of them won't go down.
No. Be interesting to see who it is.
It would be.
MK Dons are the ones who aren't in it so far, but they've lost more than the other teams in there.
Yeah, it's a bit bit tight, that one. And I suppose the last point on League One before we move on has to be the new manager of our bottom team there.
Forest Green.
Duncan Ferguson. Where did they pull that name out of the hat?
Yeah, there was quite a lot
manager.
of talk on like some of the photos for which he posed for being a new manager. Didn't look like he wanted to be there particularly, but he obviously has some sort of desire.
Do you think he knew he wouldn't get a decent beef burger?
Who knows?
It's veggie only, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, they're that's the guy who owns the club, who's vegan, and they don't serve meat.
Oh wow!
So I wonder if Duncan Ferguson knew. It would be veggie food only. I don't know.
Is it only vegetarian at their training ground as well, do you reckon?
Well, I bet he'd hide a few things to get in, wouldn't you? Has he been... I'm not sure what his history as a manager is.
He's obviously been Everton caretaker quite a number of times, hasn't he? For some bizarre reason, he's never done brilliantly. He's literally been Everton interim twice, and that is it in terms of his managerial career. And he has played 5. He's won 1, drawn 3, and lost 1, and that is it.
Right,
and he lost his first game.
He's lost his first game. Well, he's asking for it a little bit, isn't he?
Yeah, it's just bizarre.
It's a strange one. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Can't remember why I come up with this. Superstitions. Oh, I remember. I read in a newspaper this week. I don't know why. 10 people's weird superstitions. And I thought, footballers always have superstitions. So I looked up the 10 funny superstitions footballers have got, the most ridiculous. Okay, well, this was a long time ago. This was written 2012. So some of these players are a bit on the sort of old stuff, but I thought these were quite interesting and a good laugh. Kolo Toure, you'll have to help me pronounce the names. He had to be the last player onto the pitch. And now that sounds pretty harmless.
Quite a lot of people have had that.
Have they? Right. Well, this one, he landed the player in real trouble during a Champions League game between Roma and Arsenal. With Toure's then central defensive partner, Gallas, receiving half-time treatment on an injury, Toure refused to come out before Gallas, and the game restarted without both of them. Toure eventually took the field without permission from the referee and received a yellow card for his troubles.
It was a bit of a muppet, though, wasn't
it? What a muppet. John Terry, the former England skipper, admitted that he has around 50. He had 50. And he had to do all of these before a game. I mean, really? The list of rituals is so lengthy and involved that even Rain Man couldn't consider. You've never seen Rain Man. Don't worry about that. Before a game, he listens to the same Usher CD in the car park, parks in the same spot, sits on the same seat on the team bus, ties the tapes around his socks 3 times, and cut the tubular grip for his shin pads exactly the same length. He even used the same pair of lucky shin pads for 10 years before losing them at an away game in Barcelona.
I'm trying to think if these are actually superstitions or things you just do.
Right.
Because, I mean, putting your tape around 3 times, I'm not sure that's a superstition. You just kind of do it. It's just kind of how you just put your tape on. Do you know what I mean?
Laurent Blanc and Fabian Barthez. One of the visual highlights of the 98 World Cup was the sight of Laurent Blanc planting a kiss.
Brilliant pronunciation of the French name there, by the way.
Right. Planting a
Lawrence
kiss
Blanc.
upon the shiny head, bald head of the French goalkeeper before every game. In fact, en route to winning the World Cup for the first time, the French squad indulged in a string of wacky rituals. Each player would sit in exactly the same seat on the team bus as they made their way to the games before listening to Gloria Gaynor's feminist anthem, I Will Survive, in the dressing room. Pele, when are they best man? I mean, Pele. The Brazilian legend once gave a match shirt to a fan only to then suffer a dip in form. So he instructed a friend to track down the old shirt, and a week later it was returned to him. Oh, what a kid, who immediately returned to his goal-scoring ways. What the friend did not tell Pele was he actually could not find the original shirt. Blah, blah, blah. And there's loads of these. There's one that had to watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory film before every game. And he was Malvin Kamara, and he played for MK Dons and Cardiff and Port Vale.
So much time wasted. I'm sorry.
There's one that I've got to find. Oh, here we go. I could go through all of them, but I'm not going to. This one I've got to read out. Now, this guy, I mean, with a name like this, he deserves a mention. Midland Portland Cement.
Nice.
Okay. Now, we've heard of a team sharing a bath after a game, but the management team at the Zimbabwe club, Midland Portland Cement, took things a little too far when they told their squad to bathe in the Zimbabwe River near Victoria Falls. According to the LA Times, the intention was to cleanse the team of bad spirits. Unfortunately, the club's coaches hadn't given much thought to the dangers posed by a river where swimming is banned due to its strong currents and the little matter of being heavily populated by hippos and crocodiles. Some 16 players went into the river, but sadly only 15 came out. As one of the players disappeared and was thought to have either been drowned or eaten.
What's wrong with people? For goodness sake.
I shouldn't laugh at that. I know I shouldn't laugh at that.
No, it's ridiculous.
Boy, there's one on here, and I wasn't sure whether to read it all, but there's one on here where a guy had to have a shit on the pitch before each game. It was a goalkeeper, and I could look that one up, but without reading them all, I wouldn't find it. How weird is that?
The only thing I ever had was that.
Not that.
No. I had to have one shin pad on my left leg and one on the other, and it was specific as to which one it was. Oh. That is as far as I went in terms of superstition. It's not even a superstition. I just put one shin pad on one leg and one on the other.
Okay. FA Cup, Kieran. FA Cup.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Liverpool. Yay. With just a overview about whether you want to speak about anything, but I thought this was an interesting fact from the FA Cup I heard, so I just thought I'd bring this up. Who is the top FA Cup goal scorer? Any idea?
What, of all time or of this year? It'll be someone weird, won't it?
Like to take this.
I'm just trying to think, like, the names I've got in my head are like Drogba, Shearer, Crouch, like people like that. Defoe. I'll go with Defoe.
No. It was Frank Lampard.
Oh,
He
really?
scored 27 FA Cup goals.
Oh, that's pretty mad, isn't it?
A midfielder. I thought, well, Arsenal were in it for quite, did quite a few
Yeah.
years, and so it might be I think in Henri, or you'd think of a sort of goal scorer, but no, Frank Lampard. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I've got I mean, maybe this is from recent, but I've got up on here that it's actually Rush.
Oh, you're going to
I've got Rush on 40, Lampard on 27, then Shearer, then Rooney, and then Defoe. So I did say there's a couple
Oh,
of them.
maybe this is.
Maybe that's from, I don't know.
Well, no, I'll take that. 40.
Yeah.
40.
He played 61 games and scored 40 goals in the. 65 games, scored 40 goals in the FA Cup, apparently.
Right. No, I'll computer very very handy.
There you go.
Okay. Next topic.
Are we not going to talk about the FA Cup in general?
No, please, if you've got anything to say. I thought the FA Cup was a bit of a drag. Actually.
It does look, the scores do look a bit boring. I'll try and pick out ones that actually look somewhat exciting.
The Arsenal City game,
well,
we will discuss in the next topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunderland's getting a result. Fulham's pretty good. So many draws. Southampton edging past Blackpool. Apparently Spurs were awful against Preston, but still won 3-0. United.
I turned the TV on. I thought, shall I? And I thought, I saw about 10 minutes. I thought, no, this is a waste of time.
United
were awful. I mean, why teams go all behind the ball and have one player to do a run who's not very good anyway against the defence? I mean, Spurs aren't brilliant, but
no. United being Reading, fine. They actually look good now, United, which is a bit of a shame because we look awful. I didn't watch it, and I said to Nathan, "Oh, the Liverpool game's nearly finished. Let me check the score. Oh wait, we conceded in the last minute."
I did watch it. And I thought, well, I tell you what, Liverpool were lucky to have all 10 players on the pitch.
I saw the clip of Fabinho. That's a red card every day of the week. It's awful.
He knew it as well, wasn't he? He was waiting for the red card to come out when they looked at that online.
Dreadful.
And I think he was embarrassed, actually. He was embarrassed.
Well, he was just waiting to be given a red card, wasn't he?
Why he wasn't, I cannot imagine.
No.
But who was that kid playing? There was
Bachesic.
My.
Apparently he's looked all right in the previous games. Fabinho is dreadful now. Salah can't do anything. Like it's just a really bad team.
Salah missed a sitter.
Yeah. I genuinely do worry a little bit as to how we get out of this rut, whether that be this season or next. Because we are hanging our hats on signing Bellingham this summer, and if that doesn't happen, we are stuffed. I think. I don't see why he's come to us if we're on the Champions League. So, yeah, it's all going well.
Okay. We'll give the FA Cup. Do you know, it doesn't really excite me this year. Just somehow.
Well, there was no big games apart from City Arsenal, and that big game didn't include much, did it?
We'll talk about that in one sec. There is one other thing I want to talk about before we get on to Mr. Main's subject that I've looked at, and that is Anthony Gordon joins Newcastle. How will he be remembered at Everton?
Well, he won't be, will he? Particularly, he hasn't done that much in football in general. I don't think Everton fans are going to be like, "Oh no, we haven't got Anthony Gordon." But then saying that, they may well say that
40 million
Championship. Yeah, I mean they'll take that every day of the week.
And yet, He failed to report for training for 3 days.
Yeah.
He was saying, let me out.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, when they signed him, it was, this is my dream club. I cannot believe I'm going to be playing at Everton. I've wanted to play for Everton. This cannot get any better. And then he treats Everton like that.
Yeah. Life of a footballer.
If I don't turn up to work,
Well,
I'll be sacked.
You say you say that in terms of how he's treated the club, but all the players who want to leave any club do it now. It's evidently a thing for agents to tell their players that this is what you have to do in order to leave.
So what do they do about it? Is it okay to do that? Is it okay to do that?
No, but that's like individual to a person and what their morals suggest. Like you can't put anything in place in terms of if this player does this, then they're banned for 3 games, because it's not to do with the FA or whoever. It's a moral situation, and people are twats in general. So that's just how it be.
That baffles me. I mean, if it hadn't gone through and he hadn't bothered turning up, the rest of the players would have been. I mean, I know Everton fans haven't exactly been friendly to him. I mean, they surrounded his car, didn't they, and just shouted and swore at him like he was the lowest of the low. So let's be fair in saying he owed those fans not a lot.
Which is awful because he's younger than me. And imagine that. That's horrendous.
But it's only a handful of fans, you have to remember. Yeah. It's not thousands. Whereas thousands buy the tickets and watch him every year. And so he wasn't. So some of those, call them fans if you want, aren't very nice and treated him really badly. But that is no reason for him to behave like that. I just think that's awful. I would never do that. If I wanted to change jobs and I'm going for interviews, I just think, I won't bother going to work now. No, you don't do that. I think there needs to be something sorted out about that. And I think all the players need to have a little bit of a meeting about that.
Yeah, but all the players will eventually want to leave their clubs at some point, more than likely.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that.
No, but some players just do.
And I think that's wrong.
Of course it is. But I don't think there's really too much anyone can really do about it. Okay. In my opinion.
This is the main subject, which I haven't actually said what it's called, mainly because it sounds really boring, but I think it's really interesting. And it has an awful big effect on every game. And it has a really big effect on whether Arsenal are going to win the league or Manchester City, whether either of them can play in different cups, whether Manchester United can go all the way and play in all of these cups. Now, can Arsenal win the league with the depth of squad? They've only played so far the same team 8 times.
Man City?
No, this is Arsenal.
Arsenal, wow.
Yeah.
Surprises me.
And their centre forward, Nketiah, is that
Nketiah.
Nketiah. Is he weaker than Jesus? Unproven. He certainly had been. Can he keep it going? And if Jesus had been injured 1 month later, would they have brought someone in?
Very potentially. I don't know, because they've literally just bought Jesus. And so just going and buying another one to supposedly kind of take his place for a couple of months seemed a little bit silly. There's not saying Ketty hasn't done a good job since he's been in the team.
And do you think he'll keep it going?
It doesn't look like stop him. But you do wonder in the. I mean, I know he scored against United, but he did look pretty non-existent against City. And I can't imagine, like, in big, Premier League or Champions League games, he'd be able to keep it going in those sort of games. Lower teams, yeah, sure, but
what do you know? They mentioned today Liverpool having only played the same their so-called best defence, their so-called the ones. If we were to say, okay, look at the team, how many times has that team had the same back four? The answer is they've only played them once. And does that show?
Well, Liverpool's a brilliant example because the team that everyone remembers winning the Champions League and the Premier League only ever played once, and that was in the Champions League final. That we only ever started that team once, which is just sad to say.
Isn't it strange, that whole thing, that if you were to name your teams and you think, that's Arsenal. Arsenal have actually only played. I mean, mind you, 8 times isn't bad out of 19. I bet Man City, I'd be fascinated to know how many times they've played the same team together.
Yeah, because you have to remember, like, there could just be like one little change. Like, it could be Tierney at left back instead of whoever's there now. Like, it could be just one little, but like the whole team, the generic team always stays very similar.
Do you think it's important to keep the same lineup?
Yeah, that's why City have not. Well, in my opinion, why City haven't kept as consistent this year as they have done previously, because they've messed around their defence. Like, why he's been under the assumption that Walker, Cancelo, Laporte, and Diaz isn't a good enough back four is beyond me. Like, why he's had to bring in a Kanji and Lewis, the young right back.
Yeah.
And, like, Ake's been good, but like, why is he playing left back? That's why they've cocked up a lot of their games, in my opinion.
So do you think City are too big?
In the sense that
his squad is too big and he's got too many sat on the bench annoyed that they don't get a game. And so he has to play them. Otherwise, he ends up with a team that aren't very happy.
Well, Chelsea are stuffed, aren't they? They signed another £30 million player today. But going back on loan to where he came from, but there's another 30 million gone. Their squad's going to be absolutely massive. They've already got a couple coming in the summer that they've already signed. Like, I don't know how they're going to cope. And the same with City, maybe.
So are Arsenal about right if they're going to win the league, as long as the injuries don't turn up? I mean, they've signed Trossard.
Yeah.
Was that? I mean, up till now, all their players are very young. They've just signed him, who Arsenal are very possibly the last of his teams.
He's not that old, though. He's still late 20s. He's still got a few years left. I feel they could do with one or two more. I think there's a big difference between their starting centre backs and like when Holding comes in, players like that. Even Xhaka at this point, if he wasn't in the team, I think there'd be a big gap. And of course, if they don't have Jesus, if Nketiah was then to get injured, there'd be a huge gap up there.
What do you reckon to Partey? I think if he's missing, they're in trouble.
Yeah, Partey, Ødegaard. Like, you could name the Arsenal team this year. This is the thing. and they're all the system again, as most of the teams who win leagues now are. It's all a system. It's not individual brilliance anymore.
No. I mean, Odegaard is their captain, and at the moment, if you were to hand out the player of the season,
he probably
Haaland would win it, right? Haaland would win it, would he not?
Probably.
I mean, they would hand it to him, wouldn't they? I mean, for goodness sake. I mean, he would have won the Golden Boot by now in previous seasons, in certain seasons. Yeah. But Odegaard would get the silver boot, wouldn't he? No, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He would, and yet he's not your average captain, is he?
Well, he's quite young to be a captain, isn't he? Probably leads more by example than he does. He never seems like the sort of bloke who's going to be shouting at everyone and all that sort of thing. He goes about it kind of a different way, as do Arsenal in general, in all fairness. You don't get the impression that it's a load of big personalities.
They're not old enough to be that.
No, which is why, if they were to go on a little bit of a dip, they could struggle because everyone might crawl into their shell a little bit. But, I mean, they're not at the moment, so who's to say they will in the future?
So do you think Trossard was a good buy? And should they have bought more?
I think they could well look back on it and regret not spending a little bit more. Trossard's a fine buy. I don't know. He doesn't go into their starting 11.
But he played against City and he looked really good, I felt.
Yeah.
I think he might be interesting.
I think if he was to go to any of the top 6 teams, it would have to be Arsenal. I do think that they would not mind signing another midfielder, but more of a defensive-minded one, just in case. I think they have like Lukonga, but he's not it. And a centre-back. Just to make sure, if they were to do that and they were to just slot into the team absolutely fine, then the league's theirs, I think. But I think they might struggle if they don't.
I think all these teams that win the league need one particular type of player. And that is for Liverpool, it was not sure it is now. I think he might be past it, is Milner.
Yeah.
And for Wycombe, it's somebody like Wheeler. You know, somebody that can move around a bit, can go up front to help, can go behind and help, can go to the right, can go to the left or in the middle. I mean, he's anywhere, isn't he? He can fit in. If there's any problem, he will fit in. He won't necessarily be the best, but he will fit in without too much disruption.
Well, this is if you don't have a huge squad anyway, yeah. Like for United, back in the day, it was Ji-sung Park. Like Ferguson always talks about him, just being his utility man. For Liverpool, it has to be Milner. Arsenal, do they have anyone like that? No.
That's what I wonder, you see, because that's who they could do with that. I think they need somebody like that. So if there's a problem, they've got somebody who can fit in. I mean, isn't that the Swiss guy? Is he the guy that they've always had the problem with?
What, Xhaka?
Yeah. Can he not?
He could. Yeah, he can play CDM and an attacking midfield role, but he wouldn't slot into like centre back or left back or anything like that. I don't feel.
Do you think this is also a league title for City to lose rather than Arsenal to win?
if you were to say that at the start of the season, City should always win it. So yes, in that sense. If you're an Arsenal fan, you'd be miffed now if you didn't win it. Like, you're in the Champions League, and that's a lot better than what it has been in previous seasons. And who knows what may happen in the future if they're to invest a little bit more. But they're in a very, very strong position. The only thing that they have to worry about is the fact they have to play City twice still. And when they played them on Friday, they did look second best, even though it wasn't a great game.
Do you think there's the talk about Hanlon, our City not as good with him?
You mean Haaland, not Hanlon?
Haaland, yeah, sorry.
Not quite Hanlon.
We know Wycombe aren't very good with Hanlon. Yeah, you see, I wonder whether the problem with Haaland is that it ties City down to a particular style of football, whereas previous they'd been able to swap and change without a number 9.
Yeah,
they'd been able to move it around, choose different styles of football, and adapt to who they're playing. Now they're stuffed because he is on the pitch. He will be starting, and now the ball goes to him to score the goals. The interesting part is, look at me in names, it's awful. Belgian best player footballer in this country ever for City.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last 20 seconds.
Well,
I'm sure what you said is correct.
Best Belgian player to come into this country ever.
What, De Bruyne?
De Bruyne. You see, last year, I haven't got the figures in front of me, but he scored loads and assisted half. Am I getting this the right way round?
No, you might be right, in all fairness.
This year, he's assisted but hasn't scored. His game has changed entirely.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning whether that's good or bad on his point. That's what he's for. I think that's a better game for him. But I think what it shows is a change in play. They used to have players that run to the byline. They don't have players that run to a byline anymore. The ball is over the top toward a front runner.
Got rid of Sterling, didn't they? And Mahrez isn't a get to the byline kind of player.
He's a crosser to the tall guy in the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
I think Haaland has scored how many? 20-something in the league?
25, I think.
25. Out of them, 8 have been with his weaker foot and 8 have been with his head. But 8 with his head, and he was never any good at heading the ball. But I think that's telling you what's coming at him, and their taps, and they're in front along the line, and they're the ones with his other foot are runs. And I just think they've gone in. They've gone very narrow, and he doesn't have a choice on style of football anymore. He can't. He's got a whopping squad to mess around with, but he can't mess around with it.
No, because all the teams that do eventually win things are the ones that keep consistent.
Yeah, so I think he's in trouble. Now, how much depth do the league winners have? Okay. Now, we said about Arsenal have played with the same team 8 times. The team that played with the most consistent was Leicester in 2015-16 because I had a small squad. What's happened?
What?
Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, there you are.
Is a 6-year-old man tries to use technology.
It went blank. Leicester 2015-16, they played with the same lineup 17 times. Chelsea were next in 16-17. They played with the same team 13 times in the league, but had no European football. The rest are there were about 5 times there were teams that played with 11. After that, it goes less and less. And the least was the league winners used one setup once. They played with 38 different lineups, which was Manchester United in 96-97.
Mad.
In fact, if you look at it, 13 times with 16 or 17. So to win the league, it looks like you need to have a settled squad. Gives you more chance of winning than not. That means injury, doesn't it? This means prevention of injury. So doesn't that mean less cups? So was it a good thing that Arsenal got kicked out of the FA Cup? Is the bad thing to be in all 4? Is that going to mess Man United up this season?
I mean, you say that, but Liverpool were 2 games away from winning all 4 last season. And the squad's not much different to what it was last season is now. So it is definitely doable. We had a slightly bigger squad than Arsenal do now, so it probably isn't ideal for them too much. I'm trying to think, obviously, into my sports science and all that, whether, because you play games all the time anyway. Come the end of the season, does it matter too much if you're not training and all that sort of thing? I don't know.
Right,
essentially,
nearly done with this, but the other thing that people jump up and down about is we needed to buy in the winter. In January we should have bought more players. Well, most league winners do not buy top players in January. No. Here's the biggest. Are you ready? Manchester City bought Laporte.
Yeah.
Liverpool, if you want to count him as a big player, is Minamino was the biggest
player.
Sorry, you don't want to count him as a big player.
He's not a big player. He costs us what, 8
but
million?
He was the biggest that they bought when they've won the league in the last 30 years. Newcastle was a guy called Espria, I think, in 95, 96. And they are the top 3 players that have been bought by league winners.
Yeah,
and so now Trossard will actually count possibly as the second biggest. And I would say this is, as they say, no noise to wake the baby, which is safer, isn't it? Don't disrupt the apple cart.
No,
we can go on. But then
teams that are winning are less likely to go out and buy big players, aren't they? Because you don't need to at that point, and deals are always easier in the summer, supposedly.
Now, the average age of Arsenal is 24.9, although Trossard's probably brought that up a frazzle. 24.9. The youngest team ever, the average age overall for the last 30 years was 26.8. So Arsenal are a bit younger and will be the youngest, because the average age of the previous youngest team was Chelsea in 0405, and they were 25.2. Can you name me the oldest?
Let me guess, Liverpool.
No, it was Chelsea again, virtually with the same team. This one, the youngest, had Terry in it at the age of about, I don't know, 21 or something. And then the next one was 0910, and they were 28.7. So they were playing 5 years later with the same players, and they won with the youngest team and won with the oldest team.
Just not in between.
Yep. Yeah, lost everything in between. Will 5 subs make it worse? And 9 player benches, will it mess equality up for these teams? Does this give...
Not sure that's the right word.
Yeah. Okay. Does this mess up Arsenal's chances of beating City? Does this mess up everybody's chances of beating City? Or
Probably.
Does this mean Guardiola messes up because he thinks he's got such good players, and so puts different players on the pitch when maybe he should just leave it alone?
I mean, there'll be stats out there, but ever since 5 subs has come in, I mean, it's not like City have been better this season, has it? And we're saying with Arsenal's lack of deep squads, and yeah, they're top of the league. And Liverpool are all down there, Chelsea are down there despite their massive squads. I don't think it's made too much difference.
Right. Because a lot of those players sit there and never come on. And I wonder whether if you don't get much time playing, you should be free to go and join another club automatically. You should be free to be sold because you get fed up.
Yeah, but then that could be the player's fault for not trying hard enough.
Here's your last bit of interesting information. There's 2 teams that have played the most games ever in a league. They are Chelsea and Liverpool last year. Both played 63 matches. And they were at the top of everything last year in the finals of 2 things and fighting this and fighting that. Look where they both are now.
Good enough.
Is that, do you think, having played more games than every other team by miles in the Football League and Cups, do you think that has had an effect on them this season? And will this affect Arsenal if they keep doing well in Europe? This is for next season. I've asked about this season, but do you think this will affect them next season?
It can only affect you mentally rather than physiologically. Like, you still have the 2 month break in between or so, and like physiologically your body recovers within like a week as opposed to over that length of period of time. So
physically they should be fine.
Physically fine, mentally the feeling of having almost won everything and potentially not will be what has affected
Liverpool. Them more. Yeah. So mentally they've got a problem rather than physically. I'm just finding a pen. Okay. Is there anything you want to add to that? Any of that, Kieran? Do you think that's been interesting looking at that depth of Arsenal squad?
We'll ask the viewers who are still with us.
And do you think Arsenal, you said last week you did, do you think they're still okay for this? No. Having seen them play City?
No, I think they might be in trouble.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at this week's football on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay, not Monday. That's a cup game anyway. And we're going to decide on who wins, draws, and loses. Okay. And
we have to do the score as well, don't we?
Oh, and the score, yeah. If you get the score right, you get 3 points. If you get the if you get the game result correct, you get 1 point and no points for losses. Okay.
I've got the games here.
Yeah, Friday.
Chelsea, Fulham. I'm going to go 1-0 Chelsea.
Funnily enough, I'm going to suggest that Fulham are going to win that. And so I'm going 2-0 Fulham. Look at that.
Everton, Arsenal. I'm going to say 3-0 Arsenal. No, it's early kickoff. Early kickoff never comes in. 1-0.
Everton, Arsenal, you're going 1-1.
Yeah.
That's a difficult one. I again am going 2-0 to Arsenal. Aston Villa, Leicester then.
2-2.
I'm going 0-0. Brentford, Southampton.
3-1 Brentford. Normally quite good at home.
2-1 to Brentford. Brighton, Bournemouth.
I'll go 2-1 Bournemouth. That caused an upset.
Well, I'm going 4-0 to Brighton. I think they'll whop them. Man United, Crystal Palace.
Palace always like to mess them up. Nah, 3-1 United. They look too good at the moment.
I'm going 1-1. I'm hoping Crystal Palace. Wolves, Liverpool.
Don't even care.
You don't care. You can't go, don't care.
2-1 Liverpool.
Shall I go with what I think? Or no?
It doesn't matter what you put to me.
I'm going 1-1.
Yeah, probably about right.
And Newcastle, West Ham.
2-0 Newcastle.
I'm going 1-0 West Ham. And then do we have a Sunday games?
Yeah. Nottingham Forest versus Leeds. 3-2 Leeds.
I'm going to go 1-0 Forest. And Tottenham City.
2-1 Spurs. No, 2-1 City, 2-1 City.
I'm going to dream and go 2-0 Tottenham. No, 2-1 Tottenham. Okay. So, shall I put those scores underneath?
Yeah. Right.
It takes up a lot of room, but...
Yeah, true.
So I might not.
Up to you.
I'll see. But I've got them written down here, and we'll see how we go. So if you want to write your scores down, and you get 3 points if you get the score right, 1 point if you get the result right, and no points to get it wrong. And we'll start our little league, me and Kieran, and see how you get on. So we call it a day there, Kieran. Have fun during the week, and really the last thing I have to say is you've been listening to Nightwish. Yes, that's what they're called, Nightwish, and great album. Can't remember what it's called. It will put the name of it down there. It's a little while long. What I mean is it's been out for a while. It's not a new one. I'll put a new one of a different sort up next time. Kieran, say goodbye.
Bye.
And I'll say goodbye. Goodbye.